and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I thought we would discuss creativity and how to increase your creativity. Last year I sort of suddenly discovered I was in a little bit of a rut and I realised that I was doing the same things all the time. What triggered this thought was I bought the colour cube from Sarah Rennie Clark and I went to film some B-roll and I took out all my art supplies and realised how many art supplies I have. I came face to face with this array of colours and all sorts of lovely things, and then also came to the realisation that despite having all these lovely goodies, I always use my Copics and I always use the exact same colours. The colour combo that I'm comfortable with comes off the shelf, I colour with it, and that's it. Same with a lot of my art journal pages. I stick to the same style. It works for me. I enjoy it. And I realised though that I had become very samey and stuck in a rut. And believe me, although this feels good and safe, it kills your creativity. So I have spent the last 6 months trying really hard to improve that situation, and so I thought I'd make a little video with 4 tips that I have personally put into practice and I've found have really helped. So the first tip is to do with taking time for you. This might feel counterproductive because we feel like first of all we've got to make time for our art and now we've got to make time for me, but honestly our brain thrives on new experiences. It needs time to wander, to explore, to discover new things. It's these things that sort of spark off ideas and directions and thoughts that can lead to a creative outcome. So we need to take time to be able to do that. If we just come in and go, I need to be creative, I need to be creative, I need to be creative, we can get stuck and frozen, and then that's when we pull out what we're familiar with and just stick with that. Whereas really we need to experience new things for our brain to sort of everything to start firing off and giving us lots of ideas. And honestly, it works. It's probably the most important thing. As many of you may know, I have read The Artist's Way last year, and she really discusses this a lot. She describes it as an artist date. And when I reflected on this, I realised that a lot of the things that you see from me that come to TV and that I have produced as ranges, often the ideas or the sketches started with being on holiday or doing something for myself. And when I actually suddenly realised that, it was like, right, I actually, to get myself creating better things and to continue to be imaginative and to come up with new ideas, I really need to be doing things that I enjoy, that kind of, feed that thing. So it is really, really important. So that's part 1 to the time element. So the second part of that is going to sound really obvious, but you need to take time for your art. And although that sounds obvious, the amount of times I hear people say, oh, I don't have time for that, or they kind of put it on the end of priorities, whereas actually we need to prioritise making time to be creative. When you look at young children, they are all naturally creative, whether that be like drawing and colouring, whether it be making up songs and funny jokes, whether it be playing with their Lego bricks. They are just naturally are creative and inquisitive, and it's really, really good. And yet somehow in life we gradually stop doing that. We get told that other things are more important, and that comes down low on the list of priorities. Interestingly, I know some of you may know that I suffered severely from anxiety. I went through therapy for that. I've been a therapist in the past, and we often used to encourage people to have a creative outlet. And that is because it's good for your mental health. So if you were encouraged to be healthy and you started putting going out for a walk into your routine, you wouldn't tell yourself off for that and think, oh, this is shocking that I'm taking time out from all these important things like looking after my family and looking after my house to go for a walk. We would never do that because we know that it's fundamentally beneficial for us to look after our health. Us looking after our health helps us to look after everybody else. And it's the same with creativity. We cannot pour from an empty cup. And I firmly believe that being creative is just as good for your overall health and well-being as going for a walk. So prioritize time for your creativity. So the second tip is to continue to learn. How often in life have you gone, oh, I've learned something new today, and we're excited by that. And yeah, it's something again that's inbuilt in us, just as creativity is that need to kind of learn something new. So keep learning. Don't kind of get stuck and get to a level of like, oh, and that doesn't just mean arty things. It's good to kind of keep learning new skills and developing your art skills, but also other things. If you just keep learning different things, sort of all cross-pollinate and come together. So enjoy the discovery of learning. If you do that, it lays the groundwork for a more imaginative and creative you. Now, a word of warning comes with this. Don't just learn from the one creator. Now, this shows that this video is genuine because I'm not just saying, just follow me and watch me. It's not about that. Learn from lots of different people. We all have our idols. I have mine. I have the ones that I pop on YouTube and I watch every single video that they bring out, and I follow them avidly because I just find them really, really inspiring. But if we only follow that one person, essentially what will happen is we become a watered down version of them. And creativity is all about finding your own voice and showing who you are through your creations. So we want to find that voice, and by watching and learning from lots of different people, we sort of take a technique that we like from here. Maybe we like their brushstroke, maybe we like their use of colour, maybe we like the way this person does storytelling, and all of these little elements come, and through as sort of like cherry picking these little elements, it's like we cross-pollinate things and we come up with something completely new that becomes our unique style and our unique voice. But it's always really important to continue to learn new things. And there are loads of ways that you can do that. I've just mentioned YouTube. It's a great source of finding different artists who are very kind and generous in sharing what they know. There's also things like Patreon, Skillshare, there's various Facebook groups, and also you can go to in-person classes. That is one of my goals for this year. I want to take an in-person watercolour class. And I'm not sponsored by the likes of Skillshare or that either. So, but these are places that I have found really genuinely helpful in sort of being able to discover new skills and keep going on that journey of learning. And all of that adds to growth and adds to us exercising our creative muscles. Yeah, so I highly recommend just keep learning. So the next one is a game changer, and that is to step outside your comfort zone. I appreciate that is scary. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have been quite happily sat in my comfort zone for quite some time, but it completely hinders your artistic growth. In fact, it just kills creativity dead. You're never going to progress. You're never going to just it's just not good. It's not good for your creativity. You really need to be trying something new. When we try something new, we exercise different parts of our brain. We allow our brain to overcome obstacles. So quite often if I am crafting, we laugh about this not green page with Dawn and Julia Create. This is when she made me make cards with a hideous green paper, and we laugh about it. But out of that challenge, I was only allowed a black pen. And from that, I decided to do faux splashes. Now, that's been a lifesaver when I've been on TV and I don't want to get the black paint out and splash the floor, the floor manager and the cameras and all of that sort of stuff, get my black pen. But if I hadn't been put in that situation, I wouldn't have then had to come up with that solution. So sometimes making something or doing something that isn't really in our genre, we're not really sure about it, it's amazing. Either we can be like, oh wow, I love that, I've got to do that again, or it can be like, no, I definitely don't like it, but I have learnt this. So it's still been really beneficial for us, and honestly it is the best way to keep progressing creatively. There are loads of different ways of doing it. I've just mentioned the Dawn and Julia Create. That is obviously a challenge. We set each other challenges. Dawn has set an absolute stonker of one, by the way, for next week. Have to say at the beginning, I wasn't thrilled. When I saw it, I was like, oh my word, what is she doing? But the end result, it's not perfect, but I pushed myself outside my comfort zone. I've developed techniques or worked on them and learned things that I would like to explore further. And that is the thing about pushing ourselves outside of the comfort zone. So getting involved with challenges, there are loads available. You'll find them on Facebook, you'll find them on blogs. There's also loads of art challenges around. So like if you think in May, you've got Mermaid, you've got Inktober. October seems to have loads of prompt lists, but you can also go on Pinterest and find loads of artistic prompts. My daughter does that. She just gets one off Pinterest and she draws something different every day. But all of these things really do help to develop our creativity. So the other good way of pushing yourself outside your comfort zone is to maybe use a prompt book. I have used numerous ones in the past. I have done a Wreck This journal in the past. I can't find it, which is really annoying. But currently I use I Create This Book by Mariah Elizabeth, and I like this one because we know that we're Alice in Wonderland obsessed, is Create Your Own Wonderland. And in these books you get various prompts to work with. And the other thing about these is they're not the best paper and things like that. So yeah, you can't aim for perfection, which we're going to discuss in a minute. But I find these sort of tools are a really good idea. The other thing that you could do is get yourself a jar and cut out loads of little strips, and you could have like different colorways, you could different techniques, different themes, pop them all in a jar and pick out 3 and then make something based on those 3 prompts. So there's loads of ways around it to kind of just push yourself to try to do something that you've maybe not done before. So the fourth thing is to embrace imperfection. It's really good to let go of this desire to make everything perfect, to have a fear of failure, and just let that go and allow ourselves to make mistakes, allow ourselves to grow, allow ourselves to make bad art. That is going to be essential if we're going to do the last 2 tips that we talked about. If we're going to learn new things, you can't expect something to be perfect if it's the first time you've done it. If you're going to push yourself outside your comfort zone, the same principle applies. So you need to be prepared to make bad art. That's okay. If you have learned something from what you've done, then it's not been a waste, it's not been a disaster, it's been useful. And when I went to Edinburgh in the summer, we went to the Grayson Perry exhibition that was held in the museum there, and his artwork was incredible. It's not my style of artwork, but I still learned a lot from it. The detail in it and the story that you learnt about him through his artwork was incredible. But what was interesting is they had a couple of his journals out under glass cabinets, and I was looking at the journals, and the journals were not great. The artwork in them was not beautiful, it was not finished, it was not presented nicely, but it was this place for putting down ideas and concepts, and some of those concepts grew into the most amazing imaginative pieces of artwork. So you have to find somewhere and a safe space to make bad art, because that's where you're going to grow and learn new things and adapt, and all of those things that we put into that is what helps us to expand those creative muscles and to develop our own personal creative style. So yeah, let go of perfection and embrace mistakes. That was a big dramatic pause that wasn't meant to be, but I lost my word. So, in conclusion, it's important to make time for you and for your art, to continue to learn new things and to push those creative boundaries by trying something new, going outside your comfort zone, and also to embrace imperfection. Enjoy the mistakes, trust the process. These can be stepping stones to a more creative you. So I hope that you will join me as we put some of these tips into practice and we can keep expanding our creativity together.